Hello and welcome to Gully Boys of Cricket, the voice of fans. And Gully Boys is a podcast where fans can come out, speak their mind, and also keep share the trophy request to ICC alive. I'm your host, Prakash Wadhwa. Today we are talking about Share the Trophy, and we have multiple guests joining in today. We have Darshit, we have Aaron, and we have Sonia. Welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Prakash.
Thank you, Prakash.
Now we all know that we are in some unprecedented times here. The situation outside is bad, and I believe almost all of us, and I would say almost all of the cricketing community as well, is in a lockdown. And first of all, I hope, and we all hope, that everyone is staying safe, staying indoors and following instructions as they are supposed to be followed at this time. Also, there's a reason we are picking Share the Trophy topic today, and that is ICC is meeting amongst the global leaders talking about cricketing issues. So we want to send this voice to ICC to keep this subject, to keep Share the Trophy alive in their conscience. We understand this is not necessarily the time to talk about it, but it's also important to keep it alive and address it when the time is appropriate. So that's why we have all gathered here. That's why we're putting this voice out. And I really thank you all of you from different parts of the world, for being part of this show. So Aaron, last time we talked on this issue, of course, England was celebrating their first World Cup win. And you mentioned that this is not the time that England would like to take the lead to address this issue, although it is the right thing to do. This is not the time. And today we are 6 months later, and we have also had an incident where the women's cricket team went through something which was unfortunate. So the question to you is, bring us all to this moment. How has the heart of England changed?
Well, it's a good point, Prakash, because I remember when we spoke before, we said that England would almost have to experience something very similar themselves to be on the receiving end in order for them to maybe kind of have some sympathy to. I'm sure people do. A lot of the purists that I've spoken to said they felt wrong almost celebrating. They were happy that England won, but they kind of felt weird about the way the result was formalised. But with that being said, I think had England won one or two World Cups before, like what Australia were 5-6, then I think there would have been a little bit more of the kind of feeling we might have expected. But I think a lot of it has been almost, Ashley Giles, it's our trophy, we're not giving it back kind of thing. I think that was very much the thing for the first 5-6 months. But I think what you say is right. And what the women went through, obviously India were quite dominant throughout that ladies tournament, but there was no reserve day. And it was a bit of a weird way, if you like, to go through to the final. And there was obviously a lot of comments about that. At least India had won every single game to that point. But the point was, people were starting to say rules need to be looked at. Admittedly, not the same rule as we're talking about. And I think just that notion of people acknowledging the rules need to be changed, I thought was a positive. Unfortunately, as you alluded to, with all that's going on in the world, it's kind of slowed things a little bit. But I do believe that once cricket gets back up and running, people will be more keen than ever to talk about these sort of issues. That's kind of what my view is, because people will want to kind of get back to normality and reality as well.
So coming to you, Darshit, you are
Yes.
in a whole, right now we are all sort of united by this unfortunate thing which is happening outside. And you are in a whole different corner of the world in Auckland, New Zealand. It was so nice to meet you in person in Auckland, and we were, lucky enough to go down to matches and talk to a lot of New Zealand local folks. Since you're coming on the show for the first time,
Yep.
I want you to talk us through how New Zealand has felt and how that emotion might have evolved, or how you have seen firsthand New Zealand face this thing, this basically something which was outright wrong in cricketing terms.
So first of all, what happened in the World Cup final with New Zealand, it was not acceptable at all. Being a small country and presenting to the world on a cricket platform through the World Cup, still New Zealand provided their gentlemen of the game, their humbleness. Their cricketers are really good on the ground, and same thing is reflecting in Kiwi people in New Zealand as well. ICC has to look into this issue with a pragmatic approach. You came down here, we had a talk with Radio Sports New Zealand as well. We put our voice, and we already talked with different people in Auckland at Eden Park, as well as you already went down to Mount Maunganui, Hamilton, and you spoke with different folks. My feeling is that after doing all these things, people are becoming more vocal over here, because after the game, I was preparing for Australia T20 in New Zealand, and I already tried to reach out some people over here that they can are they happy to be part of this movement. And yes, people were more active at the time, and they were saying that yes, we are happy to join you as well, and we would love to put our voice forward. But unfortunate situations happen with COVID-19. It didn't happen. So being a representative of this country, I'm putting my voice forward to the ICC that, see, mistakes happens. That's fine. But you can refix that mistake. Second thing is that if that was the rule, then why that rule has been changed after that one? They have to address fans' voice, because cricket is with a fans only. We already have seen one game, Australia and New Zealand, without a fans in the stadium. And people are feeling that there is nothing. Cricket is nothing without a fans.
That was enough. That one game was enough, and that was, I believe, the last international game we saw. It wasn't.
Definitely.
You're so right. Now, you mentioned the rule change, and I'll come to that, because it brings us to the point of integrity for me, which is one of the finds for me from New Zealand. But I want to come to Sonia.
Hi.
Tell us about your love for the game and your feelings on World Cup final, being from India.
Like, everybody knows how India's spirit is when matches are played. They have that spirit that, no, we can still win till the last ball. We've not lost, till we've won. And, waiting for that 6 and waiting for that 4 at the end of the game, which will just change, or like a super over if there's a tie. But the thing is that, again, as you said, without fans, there's no match, especially in India, where there are so many fans, like IPL. This time it was postponed. Even for the World Cup as well. I mean, it's very, very sad that, how all these, as you said, these inconsistencies that are there in the rules. That's not fair, actually, because it could just be an unlucky day for a team and for a country. You're breaking fans, the hearts of the fans all over the world. I mean, that's not fair.
Look at this. The fact that this thing, the World Cup final, the result, it has moved us all. That's why this thing is so human. This also shows the thread, how sport is able to connect all of us. I mean, none of us may have our roots in New Zealand, but we all feel so much for the game, so much for their team, that we are talking about it. I want to throw a question at you. Can you imagine, Sonia, if this was not New Zealand and India was at the end where New Zealand is, what would have happened?
There'd be protests. There'd be a lot of things going on, actually. There'd be so many movements and hartals and, a lot of things. People would not be happy. They'd not keep quiet at all. May it be COVID-19 or not, that would have been more of a breaking news on television. And there'd be more media coverage regarding it, in my opinion, I feel.
Talking to a lot of people, I mean, one of my goals was, when I went to New Zealand, along with Darshit, there was to get a nerve of the situation. Like, how are people on the ground feeling? How did New Zealand feeling 6 months after that incident? And I felt that this moment is more than the rules. This is about the integrity of the game. Even if you look at the umpiring, a lot of us think that it was a human error. What Kumar Dharamsena made, he should have called 5 instead of 6, or he should have taken more time to review it. But out there in New Zealand, I got a different perspective, that majority of the people either thought that by that moment, the game was already in favor of England, or Kumar Dharamsena did not have an idea about that rule altogether. So it was not a human error. He had no idea of the rule, or it was knowingly overlooked for some reasons. What do you have to talk on that, Aaron? I'm talking about the integrity of the game, because we always talk about the rules. But isn't this moment bigger than the rules?
Yeah, I think it is. I think as you look, there's a couple of things there. I mean, I've heard that theory as well from a couple, admittedly not from New Zealand, but from a couple of people that I know from that part of the world. Either way, it's poor, isn't it? Because you've got the World Cup final there. You've got Simon Taufel, who's many would say one of the best umpires of all time, done a load of World Cup finals. He straight away called it out. It was a mistake the day after. I appreciate there's a lot of different eventualities and permutations that can happen in a cricket match. I mean, if that match isn't an example of that, I don't know what is. But at the same time, you'd like to think an umpire who's there to umpire in a World Cup final would be across nearly every eventuality. And let's not forget, they've got the third umpire to help them. They can actually work with that, take a bit more time. But if it's knowingly overlooked, I mean, and I have heard that, who knows, then yes, that's beyond the rules. That's the integrity of the game, because I mean, who knows what would happen? We've got our own views about the Super Over, but that would have still made a huge difference. You wouldn't have had Stokes on strike. You'd have had Rashid on strike. A little bit harder for him to sort of course he can bat. You never know, he gets an edge, and who knows. But it certainly would have been slightly more, in my opinion, in New Zealand's favour. That one run, it wasn't just the one run. It was who would have been on strike. To me, is something that gets overlooked a lot.
I have looked at that moment again. When Martin Guptill threw that ball, and that's the moment the batsman should have crossed. Ben Stokes is actually right in line of Kumar Dharamsena where he's standing, if he was even aware of this rule. So what Simon Taufel said, if we read closely his lines, he said, in the heat of the moment, it was thought that maybe they have crossed. But it was so far off that if this even crossed their mind for once, there is no way. Darshit, do you want to say something?
Yeah, and what Aaron just talked about, Kumar Dharmasena and Simon Taufel, I totally agree with that. The thing is that Kumar Dharmasena is in elite panel of ICC umpiring. Becoming to elite member of that ICC umpiring panel, you can't be unsure about the rule because you are umpiring in the final. You can't be like that, oh, I don't know this rule and this is a heat of the moment. If he's not sure about the rule, he can take a time because this is a decision of the World Cup final. It's not just a bilateral series or just any other unusual game. ICC should look into that issue, refix. Second thing, they have to remove Kumar Dharmasena from elite panel of umpiring, because when Kumar Dharmasena was umpiring in the New Zealand, between England and New Zealand Test series, that was like hurting the sentiment of New Zealand cricket fans as well.
But he did signal a 5.
Yeah.
How, what kind of coincidence was that? First of all, what was he doing in New Zealand for an England-New Zealand series? This was 3 months after the World Cup. This is almost as if the World Cup final never happened.
I was watching that game on live, and I have seen that there are many fans were upset with Kumar Dharmasena being on the field, because ultimate is not the right thing. The ICC is sending Kumar Dharmasena in New Zealand for umpiring. Being from New Zealand, and I have talked with different people on this incident, and people are still feeling that Kumar Dharmasena has the chance to refix that one on the ground. He had enough time to go upstairs. He had enough time to talk with leg umpire. He gave a signal of a 6, and he didn't consult thoroughly the leg umpire as well.
All of us, we also thought it was 6, to be honest. We had no idea that it was 5 until we saw it in the news. Now there was, and Darshit, you were with me when we met. We met an umpire who was, I think he was umpiring at some level in New Zealand. Yeah. And he brought this point up for the first time, that this could actually be a training error. Aaron, I want to put you in the shoes of ICC leaders and look at it as a wholesome picture, that all this has happened. This is how it's breaking the faith of fans. Integrity of the game is in question. How do you address it? Set yourself a timeline. Like how do you take it forward from here?
First and foremost, it's as you say, it's looking across the globe, cricketing globe, who's been affected. Because as you say, yes, share the trophy and the whole concept is very, very important. That's getting right all the way to sort of the top of the problem. I think we have to almost go to the root. The root is that there's a lot of things within the ICC. I mean, I think Darshit's absolutely right. I think Kumar Dharmasena you know, to umpire like that in a final is unacceptable, and he shouldn't really be anywhere near the elite panel, in my opinion, to be that unsure about the rules. That it's not just some friendly game. We're talking about a World Cup final, so wholesale changes there. As you say, what happened to England in the ladies' World Cup? That, you know, to not have a reserve day, and I think I'm right in saying there's no reserve day, or providing COVID gets sorted for the men's. I don't think there is in the
You're right.
knockout, which is absolutely bizarre. So I think it needs to be almost a sort of fan movement, really, which hopefully gathers support from sort of I think players. I think, you know, the more people are seeing, as Darshit was saying, people are willing to sort of put that message across for Share the Trophy. It's going to be little bits by bits. Share the Trophy is one thing. You know, the way sort of reduced over matches are done, that's another thing that could be looked. There's so many things that need to be looked at, the quality of umpiring, but I think it has to go sort of bit by bit, and I think our fans have a big role to play in that, really.
Sonia, as an Indian fan, what do you tell ICC right now? And I also want to tell you that India is basically the leader of world cricket right now. You look at the ICC Cricket Committee, you look at the head of ICC, India is leading that. So what's your message to ICC?
The thing is, if I was in the shoes of an ICC leader, as you were asking, Aaron, I mean, I would have first placed the facts first. Okay, I would first say, is it a training error? I would come out and actually answer the questions of the fans who are actually waiting for, a clarification of what went wrong. Because no one knows. As you said, it could have been overlooked, or it was him being unsure. Right? There's something called sportsmanship, which we can only exhibit if you do your job correctly. So that is something which is very infuriating. And the thing is, it's almost as if, the ICC enjoyed sending him back for the test series to New Zealand. It's like, let's watch the fun in it. Like, okay, let them burn. Like, that's actually very, very sadistic. That's not a good measure at all. So, you would want to review that. And, of course, bring about the measures. The best way to go is make a campaign and ask the fans, okay, so what would you like? Do some videos, ask them for some kind of suggestions. If you get that, you have a response, you have the support of your fans, and then you can go ahead and correct and rectify your mistakes. And that's how you get your faith back. Otherwise, nobody is going to respect you.
That's a great point. You brought in respect in there, like respect of ICC, respect of the officials, because that definitely has taken a huge hit over the last few months. Watching cricket, I don't remember ICC, their officials, or even the World Cup result made fun of so easily from every corner of the world. I would also throw in their respect of the English team's win, because let's not take anything away from them. They have been the best team over the last 4 years. But that does not justify that, that's one of the defenses that, okay, England were the best team. Well, then why have the World Cup? If that is,
why have it? Just place it as you wish.
How about 2 years each of the trophy? So 2019 England won. If ICC can come up with a decision that, okay, from 2021 for a couple of years, New Zealand is the joint winner, so they enjoy 2 years of the trophy. That was a very interesting, novel idea. What do you think of that, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard that idea before. That's another way of doing it. I mean, for me, what we want to see is both teams recognise, and I think you made a really good point. Just going back to what you said a minute ago, it's absolutely spot on. I mean, I've heard that argument too, that England were the best side over the last 4 years. They clearly were, but as you say, why have a World Cup then? The World Cup final is not about who was the best side over the last 4 years. It's about who's the best team today. I personally would have liked to have seen the trophy shared from the outset and throughout the 4 years. So I think what you're saying, am I right, Prakash? A case where England, say, hold it for 2 years and then New Zealand hold it for another 2 years. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and this came from a New Zealand fan. 2 years each with the trophy.
To be honest, that it might be the best way of doing it, because I know if it had it right. And actually what I like about that idea, now that I'm thinking about it, we keep saying, and we said before, had it rained, both the final and the reserve day, they would have shared the trophy. But in a way, having the trophy for yourself for 2 years and then 2 years is maybe more rewarding to the fact that the match was actually played. So you're actually getting to have the trophy for yourself for 2 years as opposed to, sharing it completely. Because the match was played. They both played some great cricket. It's a different way of sharing the trophy to maybe what we were thinking. But yeah, it's certainly some food for thought though.
There are two ways. Either you go back right from the outset, as you said, write 2 names on the trophy. But I think doing it this way, the second way of 2 years each, actually brings it a certain freshness, even for New Zealand to enjoy it. Darshit, this is a sense I got being in New Zealand, and you can attest it or add your feelings to it, that, of course, whenever something like this happens, New Zealand is not going to come out and celebrate on the streets. That ship has sailed. But at least this is a matter of getting things right and getting history right. That's what New Zealand feels.
Definitely. Because in New Zealand sports, any sports, they are feeling about a sportsman's spirit. This is something missing over here. Second thing is recognition. When you're playing a World Cup final, teams are playing for that recognition and holding the trophy for their country. And same thing happening in each game of cricket, like, best team is getting recognized by man of the match. Sometimes we have seen that there is a joint man of the match winner as well for some game. If ICC can keep this rule for the joint best person or player for the joint man of the match or joint man of the series award, then why not for the World Cup final despite having this mistake?
All the super over and etc. things came in after 2011 World Cup. What used to happen before that? Was tie not an acceptable result in cricket before that? Like, what if 2007 or 2003 World Cup final was tied? Was that not a shared trophy? And even looking forward, the World Test Championship, I believe that is tied. Even that's a shared championship.
Yes.
So shared trophy is not like an idea we are inducing in now. It's there. In fact, not sharing is something novel that seems to have come out of somewhere.
And because with a stupid rule of counting of boundaries, I don't know how ICC think about that, and overnight they change the rule. So it's totally unfair for the cricket fraternity, as well as cricketing fan, as well as keeping faith in the game, because else fans will move away from the game and they don't have any, good feeling about cricket, because they know that, okay, anything can happen because ICC is ultimate deciding body.
There are a lot of strong words that you all have thrown out. Faith, respect. And these are not integrity. These are not small words. I mean, these may seem like just words, but over time, these develop into bigger things or lack of interest. So that's why handling this is important. And you mentioned the boundary count rule change. It's so bad the way ICC changed it and just walked away from it without talking about it. It was not even mentioned on any of their social media platforms, if you believe it. That's how quietly they went about doing it. And on top of that, add all these things, Kumar Dharamsena coming down to New Zealand for the series, he being in elite panel, getting International Umpire of the Year from Sri Lanka Cricket Board. All these things add up to integrity of the game. Aaron?
I think Darshit made a really good point. What he said about how the boundary count was the most ridiculous thing. I mean, I've used it before, but just to give an example in other sports, just imagine if you had a football World Cup final, a football World Cup. Let's say it was England versus Brazil, for argument's sake. Imagine if you couldn't decide the penalty shootout, and then let's just say, okay, we'll give it to the team that have the more possession during the match. Because that's essentially what you're doing with the boundary count. You're kind of throwing the tiebreak out the window. Or Federer Djokovic, because they had an epic Wimbledon final on the same day, actually. And imagine if you couldn't break the two up and just said, oh, we'll give it to Federer because he hit more aces. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. You're kind of ignoring the match. You're ignoring the super over, and you're going for an arbitrary tiebreak, which, because I would argue, I mean, I think we said it before, if you were really, I'm all in favour of sharing the trophy, but if you're really going to go down that route, runs should be the main thing, and if runs don't count, then it should be wickets, and that was New Zealand. Also, to what you said, Prakash, you said that how it wasn't even on any of the social media platforms about that rule, and it was very, very quiet. I mean, Ross Taylor himself said that when the match finished as a tie, he one of New Zealand's star batsmen assumed that the match was going to be a shared trophy. I mean, that cannot be right, that one of their own players didn't actually know what was going to happen from there on in. I mean, that to me is ridiculous. And I think that's why we have to keep pushing this message.
Well, thank you, Aaron. You mentioned boundary count, both of you, Darshit and yourself. I want to bring one other point in. This came from a former international player in New Zealand, Sue. It could actually be the other way around, that if you have hit less boundaries, you could have played better cricket. Because as we are growing up playing in grassroots cricket, we are not told to hit boundaries. It's about placing in the gaps, getting ones and twos. And if you make the same number of runs with less boundaries, that is better cricket in cricketing. So I actually did a quick little research. This is just 2020. There have been 32 ODI matches played in 2020 this year, including the associate teams. Only 8 matches. So 1/4 of the matches were close matches, which I would call came within 10 runs of each other, or the match actually went to the last over in terms of number of balls played. And this is the boundary count of those 8 matches. Don't worry about who won or who lost. It's 25 and 26, 23 and 22, 40 and 40, 23 and 21, 38 and 37, 31 and 30, 31 and 32, 22 and 21. I don't see a difference at all. There's nothing in there to tell which team might have played better cricket or who won, who lost. And unfortunately, that World Cup was one game which, in the hindsight, when I look, and none of these teams had England in it. When I go back and look at it, it may be more reflection of the style of play than real cricket. That may be England's style of play versus New Zealand's style of play. I agree. It doesn't belong to the game either way, whichever way it was right or wrong. And again, the way it has been dealt comes down to integrity and about faith. So with that, I ask you all if any of you has any final words you want to say. This message is pretty much direct to ICC, and we are just accumulating all the ideas together 8 months down.
So message to ICC is that share the trophy, respect both teams, recognize that the cricket is still alive as a gentleman game, keep faith in the fans, that what fans are raising their voice for a cricket and betterment, allow them to come on the bigger platform where they can help cricket to move in the right direction.
That's very well said, Darshit. Thank you. And thank you to all the folks who talked to us. And thank you to the media. I mean, some of the big media names, you mentioned Radio Sport, even Radio Tarana, or Dainik Bhaskar in India. I mean, these are all big names with huge base. I mean, they were able to cover us and put the story out. So, Aaron, any final words?
Final message for the ICC would be, the fans believe in the game. We just need you to kind of meet the fans halfway and actually just, uphold what you've always done, which is the spirit of the game. And that the only way to do that is to share the trophy.
That's very well summarized there, Aaron. Thank you. Yep. Sonia?
It's not just about the fans, it's also about the players. Like, you should think about them. As you said about Sue mentioning, it's not about boundaries. I mean, it's very essential. Like, if I've made a run, if I'm a player and if I've made a run, I would expect that should be respected. It should not go unseen. It's about how you go on with the partnership with the player you're playing with, and about how your swings are and everything, about the technique. All those things matter, not just, fours and sixes. It's not some quiz that you're playing, not some quiz competition. And I feel like ICC, this is their conspiracy theory, and they are finding all these weird reasons and all these weird fundas which they think that is going to work. Instead of trying to clear this issue, they are trying to take away the defaming that has been happening to Kumar. I can't pronounce his last name, but they're trying to make him get back to the good books of people, and that's not the right way to do that. Instead, he can just talk about it. So the approach is wrong.
True, and we're only 8 months down, and still everything seems so fresh in terms of everyone. On social media, every time there's a tie or a joke or something equal, there are jokes of boundary count or even Kumar Dharam Sena being dragged in, and that's not good. My message to ICC is we have to give it a long-term view. And this is again something Aaron has also said before. Today we are talking about the rules. 20 years later, we won't be talking about rules because it would be so obvious that, okay, that rule was not right. it was taken out within weeks. Even before, if you look at the umpiring error, that was a clear, blatant mistake, which ICC never owned up. So the question at that time won't be rules. It would be what was actually stopping ICC from addressing it? Who were the leaders at that point? Why didn't they take it up? Why didn't they fix it? So ICC has to, keep a long-term view for the game in mind. With that being said, I want to thank you all for your time, and I want to wish you all a safe stay wherever you are. Stay indoors. And I again want to say that I understand, and we all understand, we're going through some unprecedented times. But still, we want to send this message out to ICC to keep it alive. So it is addressed at the right time, to keep it in their conscience as they meet. So thank you, ICC. Thank you to everyone listening to us. Thank you so much for joining in on Gully Boys of Cricket. We'll see you next time.